Very good evening. Many thanks for joining us on State of Affairs. My name is Kweku Temin. It's always a delight joining you on Thursday to bring you the business edition of State of Affairs. We look at the economy. We delve deep into issues making business headlines. And of course, when it concerns the business community, we'll make sure we highlight it first. So tonight we're just going to touch on issues making business headlines in the country. And if I would run you by a few of them, one key personality when it comes to the finance market in Ghana, Okonkwo Jani. He's the founder of NDK Financial Services. Tonight, I would have an exclusive with him, trying to find out indeed the challenges in the financial sector today and what can be done to make it better. They have their 25th anniversary. We want to find out indeed some of the few things they are looking at in 25 years into the non-bank finance industry, indeed the contributions that he wants to bring aboard. So tonight we'll get you details of that exclusive interview. But away from that, tomorrow history will be recalled in Ghana. We'll be having the first anniversary of the twin disasters, as a fire and the flood disasters, as a June 3rd disaster. Tonight we would want to look into it deeply, try to find out indeed if 1 year on, we've been able to correct some of the issues which could have avoided the June 3rd disaster. Tonight, we have guests who will throw more light into, indeed, what happened on that fateful day. And in case of we correcting issues, what actually we would have to do. His Excellency, the President, set up a committee to look deep into these matters. We would want to throw more light and share deep analysis into it so that in the near future, it would not occur again. My name is Kweku Temin. It's always a pleasure joining you for some latest updates of business. But just before we look into any particular story tonight, let's say that we're looking at the June 3rd disaster. Indeed, it was a very sad day on that fateful day. Now, some victims of the June 3rd Circle Fire disaster uncontrollably at the premises of the First African House. That was when Star FM had their program there yesterday, as they lamented bitterly about the delay in payments of their governmental compensation since the occurrence of the disaster on June 3. We have a report from the scene.
The victims showed up at Star FM summit aimed at tracking progress since the June 3rd disaster of 2015. They claimed they were yet to receive any form of relief from government.
President Shebo so obeye bibia mai besi ne 1 year ni ye hu hweye. Efri se fie ne hyi ye abusuo ni nyina ye deda bonten ye ni baabi da me a me gina hai me da kiosum Minyanu aka by force, a memano, a biddy mate by force, a cyber biomu bedancy. I jadia sa, what a came. Yeah, man, so, a bidder station, how much I was sorry. Let me be sapa partner say, a yapa your mamma, yada wa hefa.
Master, they say I'm a general dear, because a government among Miss Kana, me didn't trust you. Government in Mamiska.
My name is Elizabeth. It is our friend. I'm living just opposite there. Nutboat didn't give me anything, even cup to drink water, they didn't. And I want to ask the senior man, what have I and my children have done to them?
Promises upon promises, we are seeing nothing. And we are struggling to survive.
The Accra Metropolitan NADMO coordinator, Aladi Seidu Benjamin, insisted that payments had been done in batches since 2015.
The payment is made in batches. Now, those who lost when they are victims, that the dead ones, they were paid. And at the moment, today as we speak, those who were affected in a way, they came to the office, we invited them, those who registered. That is why I was surprised that if you are a victim and you are registered, you were kept at the hospital for some time. you have your name with AMA at the same time with the hospital. So you come for your compensation. And today we continue paying them. So I'm asking the public that if you know you are a victim and you registered your name, come to AMA. When you come to AMA and really you register with AMA, you'll be given something.
This, however, did not go down well with some of the victims and hurled insults at him.
A day before that unfortunate incident, tonight we would want to look deep into lessons that we have learned from that disaster, and as Accra probably prepared in case of another disaster that's with floods. Are we able to curtail the situation? We would want to look deep into what has been done so far, and we'll be telling you about it. But we'll be bringing you more on the twin disasters. Let me remind you that we lost around 154 Ghanaians lost their lives to the flooding which just occurred around the Circle area. Tonight we would want to throw more lights and shed more details into it. But before then, let me look at other business stories making headlines. And here, President John Dramani Mahama has diffused claims making rounds that new taxes have been introduced, especially on allowances and pensions. The public uproar over the issue heightened Wednesday following an assertion by the Finance Minister, Seth Terkper, that allowances and pensions are being taxed under the new Income Tax Law, that's Act 896, 2015, because they were all forms of income, no matter how they were earned. Now, according to him, the new tax law had become necessary because some taxpayers were either avoiding or evading tax by hiding their income in areas which were previously not taxed. Under the new act, taxes on employee allowances such as clothing as well as retiring benefits will attract 20% of taxation. Yes, allowances must be taxed. Allowances are income, and those were the words of Finance Minister Seth Terkper. The issue, I now know, he said, is very difficult, and it's about taxing income. And if you do not define income broadly, you will have taxpayers either through avoidance or hiding the tax that they pay. So those were some remarks by the Finance Minister, Seth Terkper. Now, the new tax laws, its implications for the economy and business. However, President Mahama has cleared the air on the issue, saying that it would not be taxed as the pensions and others. He tweeted this information to actually clarify the matter following a rancor over the issue from a section of the public. That's how he tweeted. So that closes the chapter on pensions and allowances being taxed. But the concern here is, hey, if you're making some money or you are getting some income and it's actually being channeled through your clothing allowance and the like, should you be taxed for it? These are issues that we should further discuss more on and touch on it in our subsequent bulletins. But tonight, let me restrict you to indeed cost of credit and matters surrounding the financial sector while we look at issues surrounding how money has become expensive to borrow on the local market. I interacted with one person who fairly understands the market. He's had over 25 years of experience in the finance sector. Well, tonight he shares a story even as they mark their anniversary. Oko Nekwe Jani is my guest tonight. Many thanks for staying with us on State of Affairs. Well, tonight we've moved out of the studio to have a discussion with a person I call a financial guru. Now, this man has seen it all over the last 25 years and beyond in the financial sector. Indeed, he's the founder of NDK Financial Services. I'm speaking to Oko Nekwe Jani, who is the founder. Many thanks for joining us, Mr. Jani.
Thanks very much, Kweku.
Let me first of all find out from you. Now, 25 years ago, how did it all start for you to move into this industry of a non-bank financial service?
Well, the idea began before the the beginning, as it were. I mean, I worked briefly with SSB in the finance department, and then I had the opportunity to join Dr. Pierre to restructure the then Ghana Cooperative Bank as the deputy managing director. Prior to my moving to SSB, to Cooperative Bank, I had intended to set up an accounting practice. Indeed, I'd had my license and I had an office. And just when I was about to take off was when I had the opportunity to join Dr. Pierre to restructure the then Cooperative Bank. And during my period with Dr. Pierre as a deputy managing director, we did so many things, and so many things came my way which became challenges to me. So at the end of the day, I decided to put away accountancy practice and go into something else in banking, which related to what I had learned and done with Dr. Pierre. And that's what put me into the financial services industry.
Birth of NDK Financial Services. You have regrets, don't you?
No. I have no regrets not practicing accountancy. I'm not saying practicing accountancy is not good, but I'm happy that I was able, with the help of God Almighty, to establish what has become one of the strongest and the leading institution in the financial services sector, call it finance houses. Challenges are there in every institution, and we have had our share of it. But I have no regrets at all. Indeed, I'm very happy that I've gone this far, and as I said, it has become an institution, and it's going to stay forever, even after me. It's a going concern. It continues to be stronger and stronger every year, and I'm proud that I've been an instrument that God has used to bring this about.
25 years into non-bank financial services, and I think you've done tremendously well. But let me tell you about something that I think has not been good with the industry today, and that is the interest rates going around today. I put it to you that the reasons why businesses in this country have not thrived so much because of the high interest rate charges that people like you slap on loans for the business community.
I beg to differ very strongly. Interest rates are not given or agreed upon between customer and banker from a vacuum. We operate in a financial system, and we are part of what happens and affected by what happens. The central bank is the bank of last resort by definition, and the central bank regulates the operations of banks to start with, and then we are in the second tier, as it were. We need resources to do what we do as a lending institution. We borrow from individuals, we borrow from the public. And the benchmark at all times for people who would otherwise send their monies to the banks or to the Bank of Ghana by treasury bills becomes the reference point. So people come with us knowing already what they could get if they went to buy treasury bills with their money or if they went to the bank. So we borrow at very, very high and competitive rates already. Our margins are very, very small. In fact, we face a bigger risk than even the banks when it comes to lending. So our rates are influenced by the general economic conditions in the country, affected by inflation, affected by cost of borrowing, affected by even the benchmark, what they call the policy rate that is established by Bank of Ghana from time to time. Once they are high, it is impossible for us to lend below cost. That will not be commercial, that will not be profitable.
But Okoni Kwejani, do you get worried that Ghana, as a country, we are, when you put the statistics across, I think the second country with the highest interest rates?
We all are unhappy as a lending institution, as a banker, as an accountant, and as members of the financial institutions set up in this country. None of us, I believe, and I can speak for my colleagues and my members of the finance house and even the banks, we are not happy. We've had years when rates were much higher than what we see today. We had years when they were much lower, almost going to a single digit. That is our prayer, that the economy would deflate. Everything else in terms of cost of doing business will come down. And obviously, we'll be able to respond positively by giving loans at lower rates. Remember that sometimes we say no to transactions on account of the fact that the customers are not able to make profits based on our projections because of interest rates and other charges. And we say no to them, and yet they may be transactions that we should not ignore. So yes, we are very unhappy, but yet this is the system in which we operate, and we have very little to do about all of it. If the central bank today should come and say that treasury rates are going at 10%, we will respond accordingly, and we will charge as low as we can. But if they talk about policy rate of 26%, I mean, we cannot take money at 26% and give it out at less than 26%. That is not business.
Interesting times. Now, as a seasoned business journalist, I've been looking at your financials. Nikwe Jani, I think you're doing well as a businessman first and as a non-bank financial institution. But let me say, when I follow the financials so well, you're on your way to becoming a bank, I should say. Are you going to become a bank? Is NDK going to become a bank?
No. I've had this question put at me or put to me on many, many occasions by different people.
But you're doing well.
As if who say, well, where is it written that when it is not like school? Let me go back to school. You have done your O-level, so you have done your A-levels, you must necessarily go to university. No, it doesn't work like that. Finance houses is a subset of banking, and it's a matter of specialization. We found a market there, we've specialized in it, we've learned into it, we are still learning, we have grown, we have done very well, and there's no reason why we have to move to the other level, call it other level, by becoming a bank, just because some of our members have graduated to banking. It is not written anywhere. I don't believe in it. We have business that we are doing well. The market is there for us. So I beg to differ to want to be told that follow the example of others so that you become bank. So that what? No. What are the banks doing that we are not doing? Is it that we are not making money? Or is it that we are not getting the market? Or is it that it's not challenging enough? Or is it that we are not growing? All of these things are happening to us, and we are learning every day. So for me, there are aspects of banking that are not what we do, and we're not really jealous about it. But we are proud of what we do, and we are happy that we have gotten business running very well. And I think that we want to grow in the finance house category of the non-bank financial institutions.
I appreciate the way you mentioned finance house and talk about the fact that you not want to become a bank. But I know you have your challenges, even though you are also the president of the finance houses in the country today. So in that capacity, I put this question across to you, that the activities of microfinance operators in this country has had a huge toll on your operations and the operations of your members, especially those who do deposit taking. They step out there and nobody wants to see them. Is this a blow to you?
I won't say it's a direct blow to us. And this is not the first time we are seeing institutions like DKM and others come on the scene and deceive the public and go under and resurface as they have done today. We are defined by what we do. We are a finance house licensed by the Bank of Ghana. We've been around for 25 years. Never have we had a challenge of trying to meet obligations to depositors as and when they mature, they fell due. We are not in that category. The term finance, the term microfinance is even vague. They are trying now to define themselves. The Bank of Ghana is trying to help them to put them in one category so that maybe, as some people are suggesting, they'll have their own supervisors either within the Bank of Ghana or outside the Bank of Ghana, like an apex body.
You think it's long overdue?
I think it's long overdue, so that we can put them together in that category. We are not in the same league. We don't play the same league as them. In the case, who are they? The law defines a microfinance institution by way of equity and by way of certain behavior and things they can do and things they cannot do. The problem that has arisen is due to the fact that some institutions or some individuals or persons have decided to go their way of operating as microfinance houses without going even for license. And for those who have gone for license, have tried not to work within the licensing regime or the regulations that were assigned to them. Then the problem of the public has arisen. We are here. We have been in this for forever, 25 years. We have played it to the rules. Our customers know us. We are visible. We are transparent in what we do. Record keeping is at its best. Customers know us for who we are. Our promises are met. Microfinance houses are not visible. You don't even know who the directors are. You don't know the ownership. You don't know whether they have corporate management in place. They may not have all of this. Record keeping may be poor. And above all, they are promised to give customers, mind-boggling interest rates. We've all known banks forever. We were born, and the banks were born before we came into this world.
Most of us.
And most of us know that banks give loans, banks receive deposits, and so on and so forth. But people become fed up for many reasons, including bureaucracy in the banking systems and so on. And so that is what gave birth to some of our institutions. So when it comes to lending, like I said earlier, we have decided to focus on lending, to avoid the bureaucracy, to so know when we must say no, and to act promptly within a specific time when a customer's demands have to be met. So we brought efficiency in the system, and people have confidence in us.
Is there any particular thing you're doing as part of this 25th anniversary out there that the public is not obviously aware of at this time?
Oh, there are so many things. We have lectures to give. We've done the press review already. We've done the tender. We are going to have lectures and so many other activities, health work. The thing to do also is to make sure that our influence in community is also felt. So under CSR, we are talking about sports, we are talking about education. And education is big for us because you know that we employ people, you also have customers, and the better educated they are, the easier it is for you to communicate with them, to have understanding in terms of their behavior. And we are putting some money in there so that the public become aware of the importance that we place on some of these activities, including health. And as I said, sports is also something I've been involved in for a long time. We want to continue.
Quite interesting. So let me just quickly come to the point of something that was tragic just about a year ago, and we're here marking the anniversary, and that's the June 3rd fire and flood disasters. I mean, 1 year on, as a people, we want to tap into your knowledge as a senior citizen. What have we learned, and how has this impacted on us if we decide just to overlook it and live the way we live?
Well, first of all, as for our 25th anniversary, I think this question is below the belt. But having said that, as a senior citizen, of course, once you've assisted years, you're a senior citizen, I think that I live in this country, I've grown in this country, and I have a contribution to make. And when the disaster occurred, almost everybody in every part of this country was concerned. The press came on board, people expressed their worries, and some made a lot of suggestions as to what we must do in future to ensure that this thing doesn't happen to us again. Government also came and made promises. But like Ghanaians that we have always been, we only cry for a short period and we do nothing. So 21 year going now, I don't see what much has been done. I don't think that the anniversary should only help us recollect the deaths, but we still have not learned any lessons. We are still throwing garbage into the drains. They are choked. A policy was that every first Saturday of every month, we must all go into our neighborhood and clean up. But what have we done? We clean up today, tomorrow we begin to put it back into the drain. That is not human. That is not fair to our consciences. I think that there's something wrong with our attitude generally. And all of us must begin now to sit up and think that our behaviors are the reason why we suffer sometimes. And I think that there should be more education on our behaviors rather than come every Saturday, once every Saturday, once a month, every Saturday, and clean up. Only for us to behave like animals, excuse me to say, to go back to the drain and push the rubbish back there. If I were in charge of AMA or something, I would want to consider banning the use of these plastics, for instance. Somebody must be bold and say it. If we have to relocate people who are settled along the big drains and so on, move them. And don't make noise and say, I will do it, I will do it. Do it and make sure that you have done it by ensuring that once you do it, you maintain what you have done. But we do it overnight, and another month, 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, people go back there, we go back to the squalor. We are not learning. And a nation which doesn't learn doesn't grow. So for me, it's a pity that we are having to celebrate 1 year of so many lives that we lost. But the biggest problem is that we have learned nothing. And it's a shame that we have done nothing.
Quite unfortunate, an incident for all of us at the period. And what have we learned? Well, we're just preparing to round the interview up. Let me just find out from you. Several people out there, young and old, most of them aspiring to reach the feats that you did achieve. Let me find out from you. If you have the opportunity to advise any younger person out there who decides or wants to rise up through the ladder, what would you say to that person watching you now?
The Bible says that for lack of knowledge, my people perish. And that is true. The youth today are in a hurry. They are talking about entrepreneurial fund for them to tap in so that they can set up on their own. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. You don't start from school, so you don't move from school and set up on your own. Work for somebody for some time. Learn how to file. Learn how to even do filing. Learn how to do administration. Learn how people who are where they are grew. We didn't get to where we are overnight. Today's generation is an impatient generation. They are looking for vehicles that their parents never rode until they got to their retiring age. And they are moving from one institution to another, year in, year out, looking at each opportunity for more salary and not learning anything. We have a proverb in Ghana. That is to say that you must stay at one place and learn something, and then you see your maturity before you start moving on your own. Too many people are getting up and calling themselves businessmen. They don't know what they are about. They've done no business plan for what they do. They are looking at the good side of people who have struggled over years to be where they are, and they think they want to match them, as if there's competition, even amongst them, or they are competing against their fathers and their grandfathers and their uncles. Wrong way of doing it. They must be patient and go through the motions gradually, year after year. Look at mentors, get close to them, find out about the challenges that they faced, and learn from them. I learned again, and I'm repeating what I said from my former boss, Dr. Pia. He says the 3 words for experience is amaniamehu. They've seen nothing. We have seen a lot of things. You see us today, we started from one-room office in Kingsway. We didn't just become where we are. We didn't get to where we are overnight. Today, the children don't want it that way. They leave school today, they set up. The first thing is to buy a big car, to buy a big house, and so on and so forth. They don't even want to save towards anything. So what do they do? That's what they're going in. Wrong. Totally wrong. Somebody must bring them back. Dr. Adum has been making a lot of excellent points about this, and I think I agree with him. Take the time and learn under people.
If you're out of school, probably you should be thinking about working for somebody, learning the processes, building mentors for yourself so that you just don't rush in. At least that could give you a guide. And you heard from the man himself, seasoned businessman, founder of NDK Financial Service, risen to the president of the Finance Houses Association. I've been interacting with Mr. Oko-Nikwe-Jani. Many thanks and congratulations on your 25th anniversary.
Thank
you.
We
really do celebrate you. Indeed, for you out there, we're coming back. It's still State of Affairs. And when we come back, we'll hold discussions. Do stay put. We're back shortly with more. All right, so when we promise, we'll deliver on that promise. We're back in the studio, and we even have a better for you. So tonight is really, really packed. Indeed, in just a short while, let me touch on elections a little bit, and I'm not going to do it myself, but I have that election poster who is just going around the constituencies. Indeed, he's got enough information that if you listen or heed to the advice, it could turn your fortunes around. Ben Efson is next.
Yes, it's Saumadreji, that is the Nsawam area, not in Nsawam Bread. I'm sure those of you who travel to Kumasi, you always remember that. Saumadreji is a constituency that is the MPP MP who won, Frank Anadompe won with a margin of about 2,411. In the presidential, the gap was a bit narrow. Nana Akufo-Addo won with a bit narrow. Nana Akufo-Addo won with 1,165. Now, while we are saying that the MPP NDC could put up a stronger battle for this seat, is that the NDC candidate, Ben Ohinaye, is now the MCE for the area. And if he has been able to be non-partisan and discharged his work well, with a constituency of 58,000 plus in 2012, 82% turnout, the 2,400 margin could be breached simply because you get people trying to appreciate his good works and then going ahead and voting for Nana Akufo-Addo. So this is Saumadreji, is a constituency that will need, and MPP need to be very. So Frank, watch out. Ben Ohinaye could surprise you. We have Suhum. Yes. Do you know, or did you ever know that the current Chief of Staff, Julius Debra, contested the parliamentary primaries? Yes, he contested Suhum on the NDC ticket, but lost to the current Member of Parliament and three-time member of Frederick Opare Ansah. Julius lost the seats by only 388 votes. Yes, when you say only 388 votes, it means out of 60,000 registered voters and those who turn up to vote, about 49,000, they can see that 388 votes was very small. I believe that in Suhum, Julius Debra had some personal, people had a personal liking for him, because if you compare that with the presidential result, Nana Akufo-Addo, the MPP, the margin of victory was over 5,000. The MPP won the parliamentary with 388. It tells you that Julius Debra, as a candidate in Suhum, had some personal appeal. The PNC's MP Azonga had the support of the NDC. If you look at the 2012 results in the parliamentary, you will see that the PNC candidate got 6,000 plus, whilst the PNC presidential candidate got a little over 2,200 votes. So you see that the NDC candidate had 4,600 plus, and Jomama had 7,400 plus. The MPP parliamentary had 2,100 plus, and then the presidential had 2,400 plus. So you can see that the MPP's votes are almost the same in terms of parliamentary and presidential. But straight away you will see that some of the NDC supporters who voted for Jomama voted for the PNC. Now this year, the PNC candidate, incumbent candidate, is going again, and there's a strong candidate from the NDC. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dr. Clementa Park, who's a staffer at the Flagstaff House, will fare at the parliamentary elections. But this is a seat that we're keeping our eye on. So on your notebook, just make an asterisk, come back constituency. That means we haven't decided yet. We'll get back to when the nominations close at the Electoral Commission. Tomorrow, PPP, Dr. Ndum, is he coming? Bye.
All right, so definitely you would not want to miss tomorrow with Nana Aba-Anamoah, my colleague, while Ben Efson touches on PPP. You'd want to get all the details about the constituencies, especially the area you find yourself, and you would always get every bit of those updates on State of Affairs. Tonight is Thursday, and we're discussing the business wing of it, even though tonight we're going to focus on the June 3rd disaster a year ago. Tomorrow, first anniversary, we'll be looking at the lessons that we have picked from this, and we're talking about the cost of floods to the economy. When we come back, I am interacting with Dr. Anthony Akoto Osei, MP for Old Tafo, former finance minister. I just want to know some of the things he put in place while he was in office to solve our drainage situation. But I also have somebody who really is an engineer and understands the drainage situation of, let me not even say only Accra, but Ghana as a whole, because when you take him to Temale, he fairly understands the area so well. Wise Ametefe is the Registrar Council of Engineers, and he was also the former Deputy Director of the Hydrological Services Department. When we come back, we have an interaction with these gentlemen. Do stay. We'll be back shortly. All right, tonight I'd want to focus on the cost of floods to our economy. 1 year on, have we learned anything from the June 3rd disaster? Tomorrow is the first anniversary. What have we done right and what haven't we done right as a people? Well, I want to dedicate the rest of the program to looking into these issues. My guests have already mentioned their name, but I'll go over shortly. I'm speaking to the former finance minister, MPP regime, also MP of Old Tafo, Dr. Akoto Osei. Indeed, he would be sharing his thoughts on the matter. And then I also have a person who understands the engineering and hydrological situation of the country today. He stops on issues. Wise Ametefe is currently the Registrar Engineering Council to share their thoughts on issue. But before I come to these gentlemen, let me just quickly again hit the cameras where I am trying to bring back yesterday my colleague Nanaba Anamwa having an interaction with the AMA boss. Indeed, how far have they come in terms of dredging, and indeed what have they been doing within the 1 year period? Let's take a listen to some of the issues that he brought up.
Today, I am very happy because during and after June 3rd, His Excellency, the President, said that we will do whatever it takes to not see June 3rd again. And if you do the same thing, you'll get the same results. But if you do the right thing, the results will be free. I'm so happy that under his watch as president of this country, that the right things are taking place today. The right things that are taking place today, which are the very things that we put together under the Conti project, was to have a dredger on the Korle Lagoon, to dredge the Korle Lagoon and the other rivers, and open the channel between the first bridge, which is not too far from here, that is the Graphic Bridge, and Agbogbosi, and thereafter into the Korle, which means that Sodom and Gomorrah has to be removed, because Sodom and Gomorrah had taken over the Korle Lagoon, living in it and blocking it with sawdust and sand. A year later today, we can say that as a nation, we have put our foot down to do the right thing. Sodom and Gomorrah.
By clearing Sodom and Gomorrah.
By clearing Sodom and Gomorrah. By also putting the 3 dredges on the Korle Lagoon. Look, let me tell you.
So the dredges are there, 3 of them?
Yeah, 3 dredges today are on the Korle and the Odo. Look, prior to June 3rd, I mean, yeah,
June 3rd?
June 3rd and a little thereafter, if you jumped into the Korle Lagoon, you'll be landing on solid land. It was full of silt to the brim. You understand? So anytime it rained, you had water just running. Today, if you dare jump into the Korle Lagoon, you'll be going deep, very deep in water.
So you've achieved some results, that's what you're saying?
We have achieved a state of restoring the Korle Lagoon to where its natural state, it can absorb water and move it into the ocean.
So if we have an intensity of rain like we saw last year, we will not find any problems around that area. That's what you're saying.
Well, look, since we've been doing this, we have had 4 sets of rains at different times. The heaviest of it was last week, where we had 3-4 days continuous of rain. And if that is anything to go by, I think what we have done is that we've taken the panic out of the raining situation. We've taken the danger and the fear out of the situation. We have taken the emergency where when it rains in Accra, we will have.
So when it rains in Accra, can the Korle or the dredged Korle be able to absorb the water and just channel it into the ocean? These are things we want to know. Indeed, I would have to play some interviews, but let me come to the technical people and my guest in here. Wise Ametefe, you are a technical person, so am I to take this word that yes, enough dredging has been done in the Korle, that today if we should have some rains coming in and a flood, it would be able to contain indeed, and also moving Sodom and Gomorrah is one thing that has helped the situation.
Yeah, thank you, and good evening to maybe our viewers. Well, with the dredging of the Korle, I should rather link it with the dredging of the Odo, and then to the Korle. If you look at the Odo at the time of the flood last year, June 3rd, Odo was nearly getting full with silt. But today, from Caprice to Abosokan Bridge, that is near Agbogboloshi Bridge, is being dredged.
You are a technical person.
Yeah.
Is this what is able to prevent flooding in those on the banks, those areas, those people who live along the Odo?
No, you see, the Odo channel itself has been designed to contain a certain volume of water.
Okay.
So if the channel is silted, it means its conveyance or carriage capacity is defeated. So if you remove the silt from the channel, then at least you are using the channel to convey the appropriate design flows. Currently, that section from Caprice to Abosokan and to the interceptor, what we call the Korle Lagoon interceptor, that is called the Klep interceptor, has been cleared. But notwithstanding that, it goes beyond the interceptor. We have the lagoon itself. The lagoon is the outfall point of where we have the...
Okay. I just wanted you to get a feed on what Oko van der Poel was actually touching on. Maybe let me just quickly also find out a few minutes. If you're satisfied with the work done so far by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly.
Thank you very much. First, let me express my condolences to the families of people who perished last year. At these times, it's very difficult to, I guess, not to be emotional, but we have to move beyond that. Ultimately, we want to create a solution to the problem. What I wish to have asked my good friend Oko van der Poel is, he mentioned the Conti project. And as I know it, the Conti project has been conceived, but the implementation is a problem. So if that is what we are relying on, then I have a difficulty. Right now, they are doing temporary works, as far as I know, because the Conti project was a big project. I think over $700 million. 500 plus. The information I have is that it is not crystallized. So I don't know if we should be relying on that. We should be looking for alternative sources, because the problem must be corrected.
I'll come back. I'll come back so we get into details, but I just still have some few interviews to play shortly. If you're just joining us, you're still live on State of Affairs. It's GH1 Television. My name is Kweku Temin. Let's just quickly move on. And gentlemen, please, I would want you to hold on for me because we're just quickly taking a quick interview. The NADMO boss has also been speaking, and we played some stories early on where indeed the issue of compensation became a matter. They are looking at the second phase, but we would just want to hear the NADMO boss, Vibs Nzari, on the issue. Indeed, at this point, what they actually did around the time to make lives comfortable.
I think there are a combination of factors that led to the flooding last year. One, I will talk about the engineering of our drains. Our drains large enough? Are they well constructed? Are they well connected to ensure a thorough or a smooth flow to the sea? And I think that was one of our problems. The main problem that prevented water going into the sea was the Odo drain and the Korle Lagoon. Other factors that also contributed were human activities. Of course, urbanization is the order of the day, and most of the rural dwellers are drifting into the city. So the city is getting choked, and we have slums developing all over the place. Of course, because they are not well planned, the resultant is we cannot manage those situations. Waste is not being managed. Such slums are not positioned at the right places. Some are in waterways. So these all have culminated in so many things that have prevented water from flowing smoothly into the sea. Our city plans being adhered to, I don't think we are adhering to the city plans as laid down by town and country planning of the city. We have buildings springing up right in waterways. So all these things, I believe, are the things that culminated into the floods. These are just some of them. So what I will say is it different this year as we sit here?
All right, so we had to take that extensive interview off because it's quite a lengthy interview. But indeed, NADMO has done quite a lot, but a lot of them also saying that we have not been able to receive what is due. So we'll leave it with the AMA to finish up with that, but you could trust that we would always bring you those details. Tonight, let's look at the economy, the impact of floods, how we can solve it, the business angle of it. And he's joined us in the studio, Wise Ametefe. He's a technical person. He would share the technical details with us. And I also do have a politician, MP for Old Tafo, a former finance minister. So he understands the purse well when it comes to these contracts and the like. Gentlemen, you're welcome to our studio once again. This time it's your show. And let me start with you, Wise. You were one of the people that was commissioned to investigate what really caused the outbreak and then make recommendations. We virtually all understand fairly what caused the flood, the fire, but the recommendations that were made, have you been able to implement it all today? Or you are just about 20% into the recommendations, that's its implementation?
Thank you. The causes of the flooding, I think most of us know.
That's
I don't
right,
need
so
to
I don't want
go
us to
into
go back.
them. But the recommendations, I just say, let me just mention some few
All
of
right.
them
Okay,
and
go
see
ahead.
how they have been tackled. The major one, we said the Odo channel must be clean, must be desilted. That is, the silt within the channel must be removed. The Klep intersector, which was forming a barrier for water to flow directly into the lagoon and subsequently into the sea, was blocked. So that must also be cleared. Then the Korle Lagoon itself, the lower and the upper lagoon, must be dredged to allow some level of storage if possible, and the rest discharge into the sea. That is one of the main ones. Then we also talked about the management of waste, so that people's waste do not get directly into the drains. If you look at most of the images, the pictures during the flood, most of our bridges, which span across the Odo, got trapped with debris and created temporary blockage, thus preventing water to go. And so water had to spill out of the drain. We also recommended the expansion of the Nima outlet. Because if you look at the Nima, most of the flooding that got onto the circle from the eastern side came from the Nima stream. Nima stream got blocked by vehicles, by objects, and no water could go under the underground section. And fridges,
it's amazing.
And so the water had to spill off onto the street, along the main street, got to the circle. And so we recommended also the expansion of the Nima outlet. We did other recommendations, but let's see how this has been tackled. For the Odo, majority of the door from Caprice to Abosokan has been cleaned. That's when we've gone to site.
Yes, it's visible.
Visible, we can see. Then the Kole Lagoon, first the Klept has also been cleaned. The interceptor, it has 20 gates. If you go now, 17 of the gates have been opened to allow the passage of flow. It's left with the 3, which should be open. But I think at least 17 has been opened. It's quite a good action. All the 20 should have been done. Then we had the Kole Lagoon itself, which is now being dredged by the kind courtesy of one contractor. He has procured the services of these dredgers. And so the dredgers are working on the lagoon. They are called the water masters. They are there, even though the lagoon has not been completely dredged. It's in the process. And we hope in the next few months to come, the dredging would have been appreciably done. You know, the dredging of the lagoon can take over 1 year
of course,
to
that is very difficult work, so you can understand that they are difficult.
Then the waste management is another major problem. Even though there are a lot of, we recommended that waste bins should be put in positions.
Do you see them? Do you see the waste bins?
I can see, but I have not been...
Well, come clear if it's not there.
I've not been... They are there, but I cannot say they are not completely there because I have not been going around to inspect the positions or locations of the bins.
Then you cannot judge if it's there.
Yes.
We'll rest on that one. Go ahead.
But if you look at what happened recently, the last rain, a lot of floating materials came back into the channel. So it means the dredging of the Klept which took place had to be cleaned again. So I went to the site this week I was at the site again. You see that the dredger has gone back to the Klept. So actions are being repeated. We do one action, instead of going on and improving upon the system, we have to be repeating. It means there is one aspect which is lacking, the waste management must be tackled.
Okay, Dr. Akoto-Osei, so you've listened to him. Let me come to the pace of matters. I mean, a year on, this is how far we have come. He's talked about the dredging, he's talked about the drainage improvement from Nima and the like. We've seen acts on it. But from your opinion as a former finance minister, have we come far?
Okay, first, let me clarify your generous... I was a minister of state in the Ministry of Finance. However, when my good friend passed away, what happened officially was that the president assumed the responsibility and delegated all his powers to me.
You.
So de facto, I was the finance minister. But from our viewpoint, there are short-term, medium-term, and long-term measures. What we ought to be doing is find a long-term solution to the problem. As I listen to the technical person here, it appears that because of the urgency of the situation, the initial recommendations are temporary, and just to avoid anything happening this year. But I would like to see, I thought, it might be, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Conti project was a very comprehensive project that, if implemented on the whole, would have taken care of the permanent issues on the engineering side. But he mentioned sanitation and environment. That one is not an engineering issue. How are we dealing with the sanitation issue? As he says, you cleared it, it has come back. Don't forget the sanitation issues leads to health issues and environment, which I don't know if anybody has quantified it yet. But that is where we ought to worry about, because if you spend 500 million and then this sanitation issue is not
cleared,
then
it's
we
like
have the same problem.
it's a cyclical
so
thing.
we need a comprehensive solution, which will be very expensive. And that's why I'm hoping that if we are not there, we are getting there. The dredgings that have been done, in my view, were short-term. Remember when it occurred, the Finance Committee of Parliament has a mandate to take money out of the contingency fund. And I think we advanced some money towards that. Subsequently, I have not heard of anything coming to Parliament, at least, for us to approve for a comprehensive problem. And that is my worry. I know that somehow there have been some difficulties with the Conti project. So I'm asking myself, are we going to rely on that when we're having problems? Don't we have any alternative measures? Because if we don't have a comprehensive solution, he may have some information. But that is...
You gestured. I mean, so is it about the Conti project? Is it about some answers that you have for us?
Yeah, I think, the recommendation of the June 3rd committee didn't only focus on short term. It focused on the medium and the long term. But for our discussion, that's why I just mentioned the immediate short term. We had long-term measures recommended, such as creating, looking beyond the Accra. You know, Accra, most of the basins that contribute water to Accra are from outside the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. It's from the Akwapim Hills and from this and this. So recommendations have been made for looking at those basins and see what could be done. You know, we have drains already within the city. Are we going to sit down and be saying, let's expand the drains? So the recommendations referring to those basins said, look at the basins and begin to look at retention areas, identify areas where you can retain some of the flows so that you regulate the water that comes within the city and allow...
When you talk about retention, you mean dams created or what? Something that
Of course, you create wet areas, wetlands, or create dams.
But
These
here
dams...
are the engineers building all over the wet areas. Are you not the same people?
Well, of course, yes. Not the engineers are building. It's the planning that goes in. You see, the engineer...
I put you together because
so there is a link. The planning is different. The engineering that is putting infrastructure for water movement and so on is quite a little bit different. The two must come together anyway. It is not one doing its work in isolation, this other also doing its work in isolation. Now, he talked about the Conti. Actually, the Conti was to look at basically the central business area of Accra and deal with the drainage system.
Has that happened?
No, the Conti project has not yet materialized. So that's why the current dredging, which is being done, has been taken out of the dredging component of that Conti project, has been taken out to be done under the current project which is going on. So the Conti has not come,
maybe
but the
Dr.
component
Koto,
has come out.
You should be thinking about this. I'll come back to you while he goes on to. But do you think that when we set up a contract with one person and there's no continuity, one thing is taken off, funds are not provided, all these are sources of delays for us as a country? Because
obviously, I mean,
you started the whole Conti project.
No, I don't think
or it was in the pipeline.
But irrespective of who initiates it, we all must see to the conclusion. And from what I'm getting, I know there are some issues with the financing.
What are the issues? We want to know. This is the state of affairs.
Yes.
We want to delve into the state of affairs. What are the issues?
I understand that there were some guarantees and commitments that the Ghana government ought to be making that was not negotiated well. It's a finance problem, but...
Are you sure of it? Are you top of information?
I think so. Because
your sources are right.
My sources are right. But see, this is where he talks about the discussion. When any institution, I'm not blaming AMA, this is general, when you are going to negotiate a contract that has implications for the central government, the central government must take a lead role in the financial aspect. Otherwise, you run into problems. Don't forget, this Conti case was in court in the U.S., causing the first delay. The court case has been thrown out. Remember, the Minister of Finance was sued. They won, thankfully. But 2-3 years delay, there will be some problems with the finances. The money is not there waiting for you. I think it's a U.S. Exim facility. So that has difficulties. My worry is that, are we still relying on that, or do we have any alternative plans? And that one, nothing has come to Parliament yet. That
for you to...
But in the meantime, the nation is bearing some cost, direct and indirect. And we cannot continue to do that. Nobody has done any work to tell us, on the whole, the effect on the economy. Accra by itself, you see it. But it goes beyond Accra, as he said. It goes beyond Accra. I have not mentioned the health problems, the environmental problems, the sanitation problems. I'm sure it is costly. Certainly, even if for a few weeks, business suffered. Some collapsed.
We definitely know
those direct ones. But the indirect ones, some of the, went to visit one portion in Nima, and I saw a car in the drain. I was scandalized. How many lives did we lose? That is the unfortunate part. You can't put a value on lives. So whatever we need to do to clear this problem, as I said, it goes beyond Accra.
It goes beyond Accra.
Because the source of the...
Mr. Ametefe, let me come to you. Let's look at the second part of the long-term plan. I mean, you mentioned the first one. Maybe if the recommendations... I don't want to gag you on it, so just...
the second part is to look at the general drainage situation and waste management or sanitation. So you recently saw an advert in the dailies, I think about some 3 months or 2 months ago, trying to procure the services of consultants to look at the general drainage situation in the whole basin, not Accra. Then it added the component of sanitation. So it's not going to be a situation of only drainage of water. It's going to be a situation of looking at the sanitation. How do we make sure that the drains we are going to put in place do not have waste in the system? That is what the program is looking at. And I'm not sure that one, they have yet procured the services. It was an advert. They are now looking for the consultants. After the evaluation of their bids, consultants will now be used to go deep into these studies. You don't go into drainage situation by ad hoc measures. If you go through with ad hoc measures, you'll always be failing. Yeah.
Do you think we are applying ad hoc measures now?
This is what this program is trying to do as a result of the recommendation of the June 3rd committee. So there is let's say government intervention now trying to look at totality, waste, runoff. Then it is also going to look at how planning should be integrated with the drainage system. You don't have to plan your community with everywhere that you have pavements. These days when you go out, you see pavement everywhere. People even pave their houses and you can see your face in it. That means what? You are denying the infiltration process. So you are bringing every water back into the drain. And the drains may not be having the capacity to carry it. So the planning should also be that at least certain percentages...
So well-to-do people who tonight are watching us and will pave every part of the land space that they have. I mean, full concrete and thinking that they are living well. They could actually be doing the whole nation a disservice.
Yeah, in fact, they are doing the nation a lot of disservice because they are rich. They are not going to contribute to the development of the drain, and they are increasing the problems of the drain. They are sending every bit of their water back into the drain, which shouldn't have been. In advanced countries, people are restrained. Certain percentage of your house should remain green so that the ground can infiltrate, take some of the water. You don't allow all the water to go back into the drain. If you do that, in future, we'll be looking even for groundwater to take because you are depleting the groundwater. Some amount of the groundwater, the rain, must infiltrate to recharge the groundwater aquifer. But we are not doing that.
Okay,
We are
tonight you have to slow down on the hydrological terms. I mean, water going down. But let me come to Dr. Akoto. I mean, I have a few minutes more.
Sure.
Lessons learned. Lessons learned is key. Today we should be asking ourselves, so what are the lessons we've picked from the twin disasters, June 3rd? What are the lessons?
I'm not privy to the recommendations of the committee, but certainly today or yesterday I read that full compensation has not been paid. That is sad. Human values must be respected. Whatever it takes to make sure that these families don't suffer. When a family member dies, you are in pain. But to deny them the full compensation, this is a matter that I may have to ask a question in Parliament.
But obviously when people also who did not suffer, but naturally even have burns are putting in a picture.
I'm including all of that. We should be dealing with that. But I'm glad the engineer is talking about dealing with a sanitation problem. And I was laughing because when I was building my house, I had to make a decision to leave a certain proportion green, even though
you didn't know of
I was advised
that
it was in my interest, because otherwise water will find its level somewhere. So I was told to leave a certain proportion, and mine is not too bad. So every time there's flooding in my neighborhood, I can tell that I don't have enough flooding.
Down.
But I think that all of us need to understand that even though there are recommendations, have we really learned our lessons? He said something which really upset me a bit, not because of what he said, but when you see that you've dredged and then you go back and see the same debris in there, it means we haven't learned our lessons.
To do it again.
And the mayor was talking about moving Aboloshe. Are we really moving them?
No.
Or is it temporary? See, if you don't go with a comprehensive solution, the problem will not be solved.
Do you think that the AMA boss, Oko van der Poel, has just introduced an EJEC situation and he's not dealing with the situation?
I'm not sure. It's beyond him. It's beyond him. I know he's talking about the president is doing this, but this is not a political matter. When floods come, it doesn't know my political affiliation. Let us do the right thing.
Then give me the business angle of it too. I mean, what should we be doing?
We should do the right thing, which is permanent, and I think he's mentioned some of these things, and forget about the political fallout. It is not an easy decision. That's why I was wondering, what is it you have moved them? What is moving them? Have we created another space? The NADMO boss pointed to it. Are we learning? Because our planning is still different from our hydro. That connection I'm not seeing.
It's not there.
It's not. I'm not seeing it, at least from what he's saying, from what the NADMO guy is saying. And we should look beyond that and make sure that we don't just talk because it is good to hear.
I love his name so much. Wise Sametape. Tonight, give us some wise counsel here. He mentions right that he doesn't see the connect. Up until today, a lot of people do what they want. In fact, some structures that we all wanted pulled down, or the president said, look, we can't let a few people inconvenience all of us, have been put up in a very nice way. And we're all looking on. So we come back to the question of, are you, the technical people, doing us a disservice by allowing all this to happen? Or indeed, you are really solving the situation? Are you comfortable in your offices with coffee and tea?
Well, engineers, normally we don't take coffee and tea. We are always under the caution sign and taking cocoa.
We are not seeing that. But that's a human.
Actually, anyway, you see, we have a major problem with the infrastructural development in this country.
That's right.
There is, should I say, total lack of coordination among the various institutions.
Give me the institutions that you would want coordinating today. Look, these people should coordinate with us. We should have one database that when you click, this one, you see in abroad. It's just a chip.
I will give you, yeah. You see, there are various institutions that deal with, let's say, drainage and flooding.
That's right.
Now, the basic one is the town planning. The town planning, they plan out the layout of the city, where roads should pass, where water should stay. But before, earlier time, you see the town planning doing its planning in isolation. Then we have a ministry, like Ministry of Water Resources, engaged in doing storm drainage works. They also maybe do their own. Then you go to the field, you see another agency, ROSE, also doing its own before. But there is a little awakening now when issues are coming up. Each agency is trying to see that, no, I need to relate to my neighbor before we can survive in this country. If we have to continue with each for itself, it will be a disastrous state. So coordination, the committee recommended strongly that there should be a coordination among all the agencies. Town planning should not do its work alone.
Are they doing their work alone now? Can you say?
Now there is a committee that is composed.
You see, another committee.
Yeah.
They said,
no, let me tell you. Yeah, but
coordinate.
Yes,
and then
coordination.
there's a committee again. It's not unfortunate.
Well. It's a beginning. I think it will be all right. Let the committee start. And the committee realizes that, no, we have to, when planning is done, let's pass it on to the other agency, which looks at drainage works. Where would you like to have drains? Where should your drains pass? Then you take it back and reposition yourself and send it to the roads. Where are you putting the roads? Even though it is the planning department that brings the roads. But you see, earlier on, this has not been the situation. Yeah, but there is another component also. Areas where the planning has been done, then it goes to monitoring to see whether what has been planned actually is executed. The enforcement now of areas that are marked for schools, that are marked for waterways, are they monitored? Are they retained? No. When you go to the field, waterways are encroached, heavily encroached. If government hasn't got the funds, he was the Minister for Finance, if the Ministry of Finance hasn't got the funds to do the job, at least people should not encroach. So that even if there is flooding, we can allow the water to spill over the banks and will not have people's life taken. But we locate structures in waterways. Whose responsibility is it that he has to do to ensure that these structures are not in waterways? You see one agency, the agent for, let's say, hydrological services department, where I was, you plan that a drain should pass here, and you go there is a building in position. You want to pass the drain, and somebody takes you to court. And there was a case in Sacramento. The person took us to court over 8 years. So the project monies have been voted for the job, but the job could not go on because such a person has taken the project to task, to court. And the court has placed an injunction on the development of the project.
You heard the president clearly that we cannot allow a few people to inconvenience all of us. So how does the person take you to court and we still can't come to terms with how we can work it with? We could even decide that, okay, you've incurred cost. We could compensate you on the other hand. Maybe not to the tune, but relocate you somewhere so that, yes, we can benefit. Because
why did we allow the person to do it in the first place? It's not that we didn't see it.
Yes.
Let me tell you how serious we are.
Well, sometimes I should be asking you the
It took me a long time
because you have put in a lot of money to put
It took me a long time to figure out which ministry was oversighting town planning. That's how important we think planning is. We talk about planning. I was so shocked when I saw...
You didn't know
the
because ministry that was
the officers, their staff were in so bad. I said, if town planning is that important, why are we putting them in these offices?
Is this costing the economy? Is this weighing
Obviously
on
it does.
all of us?
I mean,
and how is it
we
costing
just saw,
us? Maybe people are not getting the understanding of how this whole
how can we not know it's costing us when we've lost lives? I mean, do we need to get that far? Losing the business is bad enough, but losing a life, and we say we don't know how much it's costing us, then we cannot be serious. So I think that we must be serious and show the commitment and avoid human lives. I think it can be done if it's done properly, implemented properly. It must be a priority. That's why we should have a series of priorities. And that's why these days when I see people misspending money, I get upset. What are our priorities? Every year, rainy season, we come and sit and talk about, rains will come. Then unfortunately something happens. This year we have not had a disaster. We pray to God, knock on wood, that we don't have a disaster. But we should not be waiting for that luck.
Of course,
we
if
don't live on luck. We should be avoiding what is avoidable. And I think it's avoidable. If it's a priority, we must find the money for it.
Would you easily have voted money for this? Because, you know, such investments, you don't see the profit immediately. It's not a venture that you inject money in and expect that you gain. And you know how difficult it is for you.
Public programs like that are the... you don't look at it as a profit-making enterprise. But if you want to, in fact, you can look at it even in the long run. Because if it's done properly and business is going on, lives are not lost, you generate output for the economy. If it's done properly. If it's not done properly, the loss is big. You can't calculate it. So if it's a priority, let us sit down and decide that, look, we can't keep talking for 57 years.
You think we're talking?
Oh, we've talked 57 years. Look, I was recently in Malaysia. When you go to these countries, you cry. Why? We got independence before Malaysia. If you walk the streets of Kuala Lumpur and you walk the streets of Accra, if you're a Ghanaian, you'll be ashamed of yourself. And that is why we must be serious.
I blame people like you. You've not helped us enough.
Oh, why? I mean, I don't mind. We all accept the blame.
You do?
You and I.
You do that
because
you've not helped
you are the same. If your house was there and they were going to build now, you call a big man. And then you blame the politician. But you call the big man to come and prevent your house being taken
So you
down.
pass it back to me. But
No,
tonight,
it's as Ghanaians. As Ghanaians.
We should also
we should share it.
Wise, let me just come to you. So as we mark the first anniversary, as we all not eagerly and enthusiastically prepare for tomorrow, but with a lot of deep sorrow prepare for tomorrow, what would you want to say such that a year by tomorrow, which will be the second is it the second or third?
To be the second.
Second anniversary. We would not be in a situation where we'll be recounting and still talking, just like you said. But we would have known that on concrete, we've been able to cement the things that you put on paper without talking about committees.
Yeah. Thank you. I think a year from now, if you are looking at what happened last year, this year, moving forward, Ghanaians to change their attitude. That's my perception number one. What attitude? Attitude of waste management, the way we throw waste off anyhow into the drains. And secondly, I would also like government also to have more funding towards the drainage infrastructure, towards the waste management. Then I would also like to ask my colleague engineers or professionals in the field of infrastructure, when funds are made available, we should make sure we do our necessary designs well, so as not to cost government, so as not to undermine the works we are supposed to do. This is what I want us to do. Because if funds are made available and our designs are not done properly, we'll still cost the government.
But do you think we have the engineers here to execute these tasks, or would have to go to Turkey to bring them? Think about it. It would be your final words for us. We'll take a break at this moment. It's still State of Affairs. My name is Kweku Timin. We are discussing the cost of flooding to us as an economy. When we come back, we'll take the final words of my guests in the studio. Do stay with us. We'll be back shortly with some more. right, so we appreciate you for staying with us on State of Affairs. My name is Kweku Timin. It's always a pleasure joining you with the Business Wing on Thursday, where we discuss matters making business headlines. Well, tomorrow we mark the first anniversary of the June 3 fire and flood disasters. And my guest in the studio, Dr. Akoto Osei and Wise Ametefe, have done justice to the subject. I'll give them just a minute or so to round it up. I know today there were a lot in Parliament so long as loans were concerned, but give me another time. I'll just get into it. So viewers, you pardon me. It's still our anniversary.
No, tomorrow is a very solemn day, so
we just want to
express our sympathies with once again the families who have lost their dear ones.
That's right.
Let us not keep saying that we are expressing our sympathies. Let us find a solution to the problem so such matter will not come upon us again.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just not keep talking. Sympathy enough. Solution. And it's in the hands of our engineers and technocrats. Your final words, Mr. Ametefe, before we go.
Yeah, I also want to join Honorable in expressing our sympathy to the Miri families. But as a whole, as a country, we should learn from the deaths or the mishaps of our colleagues and begin to change our attitude. Attitude, I keep on repeating attitude because most of what happened as a result of our attitude. People should begin to learn not to put in structures in areas where they are not supposed to. If you want to do any development, please get to the nearest engineer who has an experience in drainage works. Is this place safe for me? He will look at it and tell you, no, my brother, this is not safe. Don't do it. Then you save yourself. You don't have to sit down for the water to take or the flood to take you or for NADMO to bring you some bags of rice. That will not do you anything.
All right.
Your life is very important. Let's count on ourselves.
Let me just quickly hit my social media platform and get you some updates, people watching us tonight, and we appreciate you for keeping your TV channel right here on GH1. It's still State of Affairs. Indeed, my social media messages are made possible by MTN. Tonight, we're grateful that you are supporting us. Now, I have a message coming from Michael. Now, Michael, you've not mentioned your location, but you say enough has not been done to prevent the recurrence of the floods and fire which devastated Accra a year ago. He still wants to see a lot more than. I have another one from Kweku Sechi. Kweku Sechi says, floods in Accra is just a proof of how visionless our leaders are. They showed all... well, I wouldn't want to go on, but Kweku, you have to be toned down on it, and let's see how best we can get solutions to this. Samson Nibi, you say Accra floods can be blamed on incompetence and laziness of some inhabitants. So he lifts it, he takes it out of and says, you, the people living in Accra, you should be blamed. So tonight, just check if you are throwing waste anywhere. Of course, you are not doing the country any good. And if you are building in waterways, it will come back to you wherever you are. Well, Nana Kofi says I should say a good evening to you, Dr. Akoto Osei, and that you are his mentor, and indeed he watches you every now and then. So that's about it for tonight. We are grateful. Tomorrow, my colleague Nana Banamwa will be here. She will touch on the June 3rd issues and how we mark the anniversary a year on. My name is Kweku Timin. It's a pleasure staying with you tonight on State of Affairs. The entire production team, we salute you tonight for making it possible. A very good evening to all of you. We have more coming up. Do stay.